Okay, so in this video, what we're looking at is time series. So this is going to be a bit of a time series introduction video to sort of what the trends are, what we look for in them, and some of the basic stuff about when we plot it and that. Okay, so it's called nature of data here, but that's just sort of the types of data we're going to look at. Now on the OneNote, you'll be able to access this video. It's actually quite a good video. In examples, which we'll go through in a moment, I stole some of the examples from there. And the person who does that, she goes through a bunch more examples, so it's worthwhile actually checking that out as well. Okay, so looking at time series data, and the key part with this, it is bivariate data, so it's stuff we've just been doing, but the key point here is that the independent variable is always going to be time. So that's always defined. All right, basically going to be scatter plots. And we can get 4 different types of trends. We can get what we call secular, we can get seasonal, we can get cyclic, and we can get more random. And we get another one called structural, which we'll go through in a moment. Okay, and just to give an example here, this one's what we call an upward secular trend. Upward, as in it's going up like that. So positive. It's another way. Oh, that's my shorthand for positive, just to so positive. Okay, that's sort of what we're talking about there. And secular, there's no sort of clear pattern stuff, but we're going to go through the types of trends now. Okay, so a secular trend is one which appears to be steadily increasing or decreasing over a relatively long period of time. So it's not something you're going to do when it goes for 7 days and you've done it for 7 days. But for example, if you've been looking at over a year's worth of sales figures and you take in every week or every month, that's going to be over a relatively long period of time. Okay, and that's what we call a secular trend. All right. So the point with this is you can have peaks and troughs, but if there's no pattern to it, we call it a secular trend, and it is also it's a long-term thing. So remember, it has to be long-term, and it has, we're seeing it steadily increasing or decreasing. So you could have something that looks like sort of that, and that would be a secular trend with a decrease in secular trend. Okay, that's one way to look at it. Next type, seasonal, is one in which the data fluctuates at regular time intervals, usually over the course of a year. You could look at this in terms of, it says over a course of a year, it could be over a week, could be over a month. Seasonal being doesn't have to equate to a season as such. I'll go through this example in a moment. But what that's also referring to is, if you have, say, spikes in your, so say you've got a thing here, and this is Monday, you start up here, and then things drop off, and then Friday, then Monday comes back up again, Friday, bang, same thing. This is like Monday, Friday, Monday, Friday, etc., etc. We're seeing a clear seasonal pattern there. All right. So each year, or in that time sequence, I should put that, call it time sequence, as in whether it's a week or a month or whatever it is, it's showing that data. So let's say time sequence. Okay. The data peaks, peak, and where's that peak happening? Quarter 3, and quarter 3. Okay, if we joined them up. When we also then look at where there's troughs, quarter 2, quarter 2. They're kind of roughly the same time. All right, so examples could look at how sales peak at different times of the year, and the graph showing the overall trend is increasing. So we're seeing increasing, remember here, an increasing seasonal trend. So you can look at temperatures, you could look at daily sales of a store open every day of the week. So that's where the example I was using. So if you say worked in a local restaurant, you might find that Mondays it's pretty dead. There's no not many people coming in. Whereas Fridays and Saturdays, it's pretty busy, and that repeats across each week. Okay, so cyclic, it's also one where you get a pattern of peaks, troughs, peaks, troughs, peaks, troughs, peaks, troughs, peaks, troughs. Hopefully you can see that there. There was peaks there, troughs, peaks, etc., etc. All right. It usually happens over quite a bit longer than a year, or same thing with that. Using an example before. It shows the fluctuations up and downwards, but it's not according to a season. It hasn't got that irregularity of a season. So when I looked up, when I was saying up here, I should have highlighted regular time intervals. I said it, but I should have highlighted it there. This one's, let's say here, not according to a season, so not regular. But there is a pattern of getting a positive, negative. An example they use here, they have cycles when times profits increase and decrease. They say mode of software product. Let's go with, say, iPhones. An iPhone comes out, it sells a lot, and then the sales sort of taper off for a bit. And depending on when a new phone comes out or what else is going on, then there's another peak. But it's not guaranteed to be in June of every year. It might happen every 18 months or 12 to 18 months. In 12 months a new phone comes out, but then another one doesn't come out for 18 months. And it's cyclic because it's new phone, more phones being sold, but it doesn't happen on a sort of regular basis. You get random. Well, that's pretty. I think it's pretty obvious. There's no predictable variation, so we're just going to get a random, and it's according to regular trend. And that sort of shows what it's indicating there. Something here is something called a structural change. Structural change occurs when an established pattern of time series plot is suddenly altered. So it's sort of here. It's random. I'd say that's random, and then something big has occurred here, and then it's gone back to being random. So between June and July, I'm seeing a big change. Okay. And I use the example here. It says cost of mobile phone. So if you've been on a particular plan, your plan finishes, and you've been on like a fairly high paying one, it's very expensive, and now you've dropped down, it goes back to fairly standard rates, but you've had a big drop. That's a structural change. Okay, so let's have a quick look at some examples. Road fatalities in Victoria. Okay, so what we've got to look at here is we've got to, if you look at that, it's got a negative trend to start with. Okay, negative trend, and we look at it and we think, does it have any seasonality to it? Is it sort of, and you wouldn't think a road fatality would have any seasonality, because usually doesn't sort of work like that. And you're sort of looking through the plot there. You're not really seeing any seasonality. You're not seeing any cyclic nature. Yes, there's some peaks and troughs going on, but there's no sort of pattern to that. So there's no pattern to that variation. All right. So we're going to have a negative secular. So I've got the negative part there already. Secular. It's going to be secular trend as well. And because there's no pattern to the variation, we're going to say this is with random variation. All right. This one here, next one here, we're going to look at this and say there's no positive or negative, really. There's no clear pattern on that sense, but it's cyclic. You got some regular positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative over that. So that I'd say that was cyclic. I don't know. I said before, it's hard to tell. We could probably say it's negative. I don't know. That one I'd probably go negative, even though I said it before when I was originally looking at it again. This one's cyclic. Okay. So cyclic. All right. And the reason we say cyclic and not seasonal is that, you know, you're looking at where this is occurring, and it's sort of occurring at the 8 yacht sort of thing, and then it goes for 5 points there, and there's only 3 here, but there's no, it doesn't match, it's not happening at the same time. Okay, so it's got a pattern to it, all right, to do with the peaks and those peaks and those troughs, but it's not a seasonality based. Okay, if we go back up to the types of trends, again, there is a pattern over a period of time, but it's not regular. Okay, it's not according to it. It's that sort of seasonal thinking about it. All right, so then we just said it all cyclic. All right, so the next one we're looking at is this one. Okay, and this one here, you'd be looking and thinking it's a sales one. Sales one, it's because it's sales. It's a seasonality. All right, this is seasonal, and if you look at reason why, you're looking in, I think, looking at sort of quarters. So quarter here would be sort of equivalent to that point there. Then it pops up in quarter 2, which is what it does in these subsequent ones. Then it goes, did I get that in? 1, 2, 3, right down the bottom. This one here, it drops back again in the quarter 3 point, and then after quarter 4 it goes up, and then it drops back down again, which is what we've seen. So that's why it would be seasonal. This one there, I probably wouldn't say a positive or negative trend. This one I would say is also seasonal. Oh, don't know what happened there. This is seasonal. All right, because we can see that 4, 8, 12, 16, we're getting those points. So every quarter, so every year, and the peaks and the troughs match up between those years. But I would say it's got a positive trend. Okay, if we look at the Duna sales one here, if we look at this one here, it's this one. Oops. We can see that that's going to be seasonal as well. So if you have a look at it, 12, 24, 36, we get in the drop, and we get that peak in that same spot. And given it's a Duna sales, and given we're talking about Australian weather, winter, summer, those make a lot of sense. All right. I'd also say that's got a let's say we're going to call that seasonal, and we're going to say it's got a positive trend. Okay. This one here, we're going to go and talk about. We'll look at that, and you look at that and go, what do you reckon? That would be cyclical. And I'll explain why cyclical. Because these points, you know, we're getting a peak, trough, peak, trough, peak, trough, peak, trough. But it's not happening at the same time. But we are seeing that sort of pattern there. Okay. And yeah, probably not much else with that. This one here, I'd also say cyclical. Same reason. You got that peaks and troughs happening on a regular base, and doesn't have a regular pattern to it, but we're happening. You know, it's going peaks and troughs, but we're also getting again a positive trend. So you need to indicate that. You need to say cyclical with a positive trend. This one here, looking at that, I would say that this one is would be seasonal as well. Okay, there's no, I mean, I did screen clip this, so it didn't quite work out as nice as I'd wanted to. You could sort of see roughly that these points are the same, and that's why we're saying it's got that seasonality. It's got that, it's happening at the same point each year. All right. This one here, I would say it doesn't have any pattern. There's no seasonality to it. I would say that's a secular negative trend. Okay. And clearly I've given the answer. I forgot to delete this before. Oops. So this, it says which one of the following statements best describes this time series plot for the period shown. It's saying you can rule out A and B because we do have a trend. We have a positive trend. Okay, so that's increasing linear trend. So we can get rid of A and B because this one says no trend, no trend. Okay. Then it says it's coming down to these points here. Constant variability, if we look at that, is that got constant variability? It's starting out small, getting bigger. I would say not C for that reason. Is the variable going from like big to small or small to big? I would say small variability, small, it's got small v, big V. So I would say it's increasing. That's why you can rule it out and you call it E. That was also, from memory, past exam question. Okay. This one here, this time series plot shows the number of users months each month online help service. Again, it has a trend. It's a positive trend. We can get rid of that. There is variability, so we get rid of that. Seasonality only. We can get rid of that. There's no, we've just said there's a trend, so it can't be that either. So it really comes down to an increasing trend with seasonality, an increasing trend only. Now, this is not asking is it cyclic or anything. It's just saying does it have a seasonality to it. All right, and if we quickly go back, all right, we're talking about seasonal. We need that regular time intervals component to it. All right. So it doesn't have that seasonality because that's happening at 5. That's a peak there. That's happening at 9. So there's 4 difference there. The next peak's happening here. There's only 2. So there's no seasonality. So you can only say there's an increasing trend only. Okay. I'm going to stop this video here because it is a bit longer than I planned. I'll do there'll be another quick one following this talking about, plotting and how to use a calculator. And then there'll be a separate one for the next section. Okay, thank you.